evening. I call the February 10th, 2025 regular business meeting of the Lee County Board of Education to order. Mrs. Ford will give this evening's invocation and review our public participation protocol and guidelines.
Please pray with me. Today, Lord, we come to you with grateful hearts. Thank you for the gift of love in all forms, our families, our students, our colleagues, and Lord, our community. May we be reminded this month of the power of kindness, compassion, and unity in all that we do. Bless our work as educators and leaders that we may serve with wisdom, patience, and understanding. May our decisions be guided by love and desire to uplift every child in our care. We ask for your continued blessings on this board, our schools, and all that we serve, Lord. May love and respect be in our hearts and in our actions. Amen. The board's policy on public participation in board meetings. Meetings of the Board of Education are held to conduct the affairs and business of the school system. Although these meetings are not meetings of the public is invited to attend all meetings, and members of the public are invited to address the board at appropriate times and in accordance with the procedures established by the board or the superintendent. Thank you.
You have this evening's agenda before you, and if there are no modifications, we can adopt by consent. At this time, I'll turn the meeting over to Dr. Truitt, who will provide this evening's welcome and recognitions.
Good evening. Welcome to our February Board of Education meeting. It is hard to believe that at this time of year we have had almost 8 inches of snow and 70 degrees within a few weeks of each other. How about that South Georgia weather? February is the month where we recognize Black History Month. This year's theme is the impact that African Americans have had in labor and business. Tonight we have an opportunity to highlight some of our very own Lee County business owners as a part of this theme. Tomorrow we have a very special guest coming to Lee County. State Superintendent Dr. Richard Woods will be joining us at Lee County Middle West to present Lee County schools with awards to celebrate not only excellence in overall student achievement in algebra, as well as growth. It is an incredible honor and testimony to the excellent work that is happening in Lee County classrooms. Thank you for joining us tonight. We are looking forward to a great meeting. At this time, I would like to ask Mr. Kevin Dowling to lead us in the portion of the meeting where we recognize the outstanding accomplishments of our students, staff, and community. Mr. Dowling.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Wow, that was not bad actually for a Monday. Okay. Today, in honor of the national theme for Black History Month, which is African Americans in Labor, we're going to celebrate 3 Leesburg or Lee County-based Black-owned businesses that make a daily difference in this community through the lives they touch and the impact through their businesses. Each business owner was interviewed by one of our high school students, who then wrote an article about the business. I'll read an excerpt from each article and acknowledge the student who wrote it. The full article will be featured in the Lee County Ledger later on this month. We'll start off with our first featured business, which is AMG Mobile Detailing, LLC. The article was written by Justine Mayua, is that correct? I gotta make sure I said it right. All right, she's an 11th grader. Justine, would you stand so we can acknowledge you? Don't be embarrassed. Thank you, Justine. You can be seated. And so AMG Mobile Detailing, the drive to unexpected success. And this is part of Justine's article. Originally from Miami, Florida, Earl Guest became a Leesburg resident early in his life. His parents moved to Leesburg while he was still a toddler. Earl graduated from Lee County High School and went on to attend Darton State College and graduated with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. However, as he searched for a job, he quickly realized he could not find one that suited him. So Earl decided to start a small car washing business at the age of 23. Earl's mobile detailing quickly grew as he recognized his passion for mobile detailing. He later proudly obtained his business license in 2016, and just 3 years later Earl's business attained the 2019 Reader's Choice Award from the Albany Herald for the best detailing business in Southwest Georgia. He later changed the business's name to AMG Mobile Detailing LLC, which is an acronym for Almighty God, as a testament to the faith he put in God, resulting in his success. The initials also represent his daughter's name, Avery Marie Guest. AMG Mobile Detailing makes charitable contributions, gives discounts to local educators, and during the summer, hires Lee County High School students to plant seeds of skills and knowledge that they can carry with them throughout their entire lives. When asked what he would tell aspiring business owners, Earl stated, build a relationship with God, continuously perfect your craft, be consistent, have belief in yourself, build quality relationships, don't worry about the support you're not getting, and remember, it's all for a purpose. A round of applause for Mr. Earl Guest.
Great, thank you. And we want to take a picture.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Which way we go? This way? How I look, guys? I look good.
Earl has not changed the list.
Everybody coming in?
Yep.
We're good.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, guys. I appreciate it.
Our next featured business is Big Chris. This article is written by Brooklyn Cantrell, who's also an 11th grader. Brooklyn, will you stand? And now an excerpt from Brooklyn's article, Passions Turned into Purpose. A cancer survivor with a passion to cook soul food. Meet Chris Barnes. Chris has a love for serving others and making them feel wonderful inside, and so his dream was to establish a business where he could do that every day. Chris made his dream come true in June 2017 by opening up Big Chris's Soul Food restaurant. Soul food is from your heart, Chris states. I've always loved cooking and making others happy, which makes me happy. Chris and his wife, Cassandra, enjoyed partnering with the Lee County School System by catering for several district events and athletic programs, and the restaurant has donated proceeds to several school-related activities such as volleyball and basketball, to name a few. Big Chris supports the Christmas toy drive that the police department hosts and feeds students at Aspire 4 times a week. Given a 4.6 review out of 5, it is clear that many love the way his food touches their stomachs and their hearts. His advice to future business owners is, love what you do and know your value. A round of applause for Mr. Chris and his concerned family.
Boss lady going up.
Hey, Chris, the one man that makes me look small.
Thank you. Thank you.
Your son used to follow my son on football. It was just
I forgot a picture.
Come here, baby.
I'm gonna really look short this way.
Yeah, you got that thing on a quick trigger. Let me get myself together, come home first. Put this stuff in the camera. You don't give nobody no bracing. And you gotta tell me what side is the best side.
Okay.
This side with my foot like this or this one? Or just stretch out like this.
That's it, stretch out. Like the stretch. Everybody good? Here we go. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1,
Yes.
2. Yes. Thank you.
Finally, Street Treats. Street Treats is our next featured business. The article was written by Miriam Nicholas, who is a senior this year. Miriam, will you please stand? Her article, Street Treats, a Sweet Success. Lonzo Patrick, originally from Macon, moved to Lee County in 2002 to play football at Albany State University before working at the Marine Corps Logistics Base for 10 years. Bridget Patrick, a Jacksonville-born Air Force veteran and Albany State alum, moved to Lee County in 2004. Alonzo saw the lack of ice cream trucks in the area and wanted to change that. Their inspiration came from childhood memories of hearing the ice cream truck and wanting to share that excitement with the next generation. In 2017, Bridget and Alonzo Patrick formed a simple idea into a thriving business, bringing joy to the Lee County community through street treats. Street treats isn't just about selling treats on the street. Wow, really getting me on the word. You did a good job on this. It's about giving back. They cater to schools, teachers, field days, birthday clubs, and Student of the Month programs at pre-K. 10 to 20% of their sales go back to schools, demonstrating a commitment to uplifting children in all aspects, especially education. Street Treats also sponsors the Warriors, a Pop Warner football team, by providing support for practices, games, and tournaments, and donating 10 to 20% of their sales. The Leesburg-based storefront opens in late February. Their advice to future entrepreneurs: do it. A lot of people think you can't do it, but do it anyway. Do it scared. Trust yourself. Put God first. Round of applause for Alonzo and Bridget Patrick.
Just had these.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hey, dog, I think me at Taco him back, you at selling him back up.
I think we'll make it in.
I think we might run the ball.
You might run the ball a little bit, yeah.
Love it. You got your good side?
Yeah. This is
Okay.
good.
All right, here we go. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Thank you.
We'll get started back. And the first item of business, the board needs to approve the minutes for the following meetings. January 13th, 2025, a regular business meeting and a called meeting for public hearing on House Bill 581. January 16th, 2025, called meeting for the public hearing on House Bill 581. January 27th, 2025, called meeting for a public hearing on House Bill 581. May I have a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Second. Are there any questions or corrections from the board? Being none, I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next, the board needs to approve the month-end December 2024 financial report. Dr. Truitt, are there any comments regarding the financial report that you wish to make?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I make the recommendation that the financial report as submitted be accepted for the month of December 2024.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the December 2024 financial report as presented? May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions from the board? There are none. I have a motion and a second to approve the month-end December 2024 financial report as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. This is the portion of the meeting set aside for members of the public who wish to address the board with any issues of concern. There were no such requests to speak at this evening's meeting. At this time, the monthly reports will be presented. Dr. Truitt.
Absolutely, Madam Chair and members of the board. I would love if we could start out. We had a visit at Kitchafoonie Primary last week, and is it last week? 2 weeks ago, where we had an opportunity to look at the new state screener and practice program, which is called Amira. And so I would love if Mrs. Ford and Mrs. Lane, you would share kind of with the other board members what that visit was like and give us a little bit of insight there.
went to the school, Kitchafoonie Primary School. I had a wonderful time. If you can just kind of draw in your mind, this was like walking into my kindergarten class. It is a room similar to this room, and actually, this used to be 2 classrooms. Those doors were the entrance to the classrooms. But if you walk in, you're going to see 3 groups. There is a group where students are working independently, and in this particular situation, they're on a computer. There's a group that is working with a teacher, and there's a group that is working with a paraprofessional. The beauty of the entire process of those 3 tables and the way the students move is that they have data on those students. When they do all the skills that are required for literacy, they get check marks. And, and we know both the strength of the students and the areas where they need additional support. And so, they've got headsets on and they've got little microphones, and these kindergartners are reading. They're reading and they're sounding out those words, which, is my absolute love. They're looking at the letters and relatively big words. These are kindergartners. And I hear them saying the letter sounds and them saying the word fast. It was wonderful. And then you move over to the teacher table. She has a list, and what they try to do is they try to group students so that the skills that would need strengthening, all of those students are together. And this is the great part. They've not done away with this. Some things have moved forward with progress, but this one has not. We have a kidney-shaped table. And that means that it's not a long table where if Miss Walls was sitting down there, she could do stuff and I couldn't reach her. And if Dr. Newell was sitting down there, I couldn't reach him. No, the teacher is in the middle and the students are all at the same distance from that teacher. So, I can talk to this student and I can see exactly the response of all the students in that group. And it's just an amazing thing because they haven't done away with the kidney-shaped tables. And the paraprofessionals over there. And she's doing the same thing. And they do games with these kids like bingo. And the paraprofessional is doing something like changing the beginning sound but using the base word AT. And so it's bat and cat and, and that sort of stuff. And so it is just a room full of all kinds of activity. Everybody is working, independently, but they're all learning at the same time. And that was kindergarten. We moved to 1st grade. There was a paraprofessional also in 1st grade, and they actually rotate, for both the reading and the math so that there is additional support when those students need it in the classroom. And they actually, when you move to 1st grade, you'll see a few desks, and kids can actually sit in desks, as opposed to kindergarten, we always sit on the floor, And so, and these kids, and you just go up and they're reading Wimpy Kid. You gotta love the Wimpy Kid series. And they're smiling when they're reading it, so it's really cute. And they won't share and read it to me because I want to kind of read it too. No, but it is so cute. And the teacher is over there, she has got a spreadsheet. And it has all the skills and the progress that they're making on each one of those skills. She can use activities that are going to strengthen those skills. There's a paraprofessional in there, and she's doing the same thing. The teacher designs the activities and gives them to the paraprofessional to work on those particular skills, and those students rotate, in that particular group. So they all have time on a mirror, they all have time with the teacher, and they all have time with the paraprofessional. Then you move to 2nd grade. We went to all 3 grades. And in the 2nd grade, you see the students a little bit more independent, but, and this makes me happy. They're on the floor, they're reading on the floor, and they've got, their coats, and they're kind of laying on their coats, or they're sitting on pillows. It's a very comfortable environment. you know, and the kids are just having like a great time reading all these cute little stories. And the teacher's doing the same thing. She's got listed the skills and those areas that need strengthening. And so she's doing activities, and if you've ever been in a primary school, Jamie, if you've ever been in a primary school, you have to do activities quickly. I mean, you can't like sit for like 30 minutes on an activity. You do one activity, then you do another activity, because you gotta kind of keep their attention. They have kind of, and so these teachers are just, boy, they're just popping out stuff, and those kids are all engaged, and they're still sitting at the kidney table, just so you'll know. Those have moved up to second grade also. But, you know, there is not a paraprofessional in that room, but they do rotate at different times to the room. So you've got children that are reading books, and you've got children that are doing some worksheets, and you have teachers that are working with small groups. So, you know, the whole thing is just strengthening literacy. You know, I mean, it is looking at the areas where we really need to concentrate. And that is really true. It's hard to believe how many years ago I taught kindergarten, but we used to do the Bergans, and we did exactly the same thing. We looked at the areas that students needed additional help, and we worked in those areas with certain groups. So, you know, but it's a beautiful, organized, you know, little grouping of students, and they're learning, and it's a wonderful situation. We had
I will reiterate, I had a wonderful time being back in the classroom. I'd like to thank the central office and KPS for affording us the time to visit those classrooms. And one of our strengths, I believe one of our many strengths, is that our teachers and administrators continuously focus and train on reading and reading proficiency. And I believe, and you hear it mirrored here, that we want those kids reading proficiently on track by third grade, is that we believe that sets their high school, a successful high school track for them in graduation. Like Ms. Ford said, first thing I noticed in the classroom is that each and every student was busy and engaged in some type of activity, whether it was small group, individual assignments, or using a mirror. Every student I visited with and watched appeared confident and invested in the task that they were assigned. Just to relate to the board, I'm going to show my age here. I remember when we used the SRA reading kits when I was growing up. That was our resource in the classroom to me way back then, that mirrors a mirror. Supplements that are going to help us with reading fluency, comprehension, and vocabulary. To me, a mirror appeared to be it's a learning technology that's going to address these same needs on a level that the students understand today. They would run circles around me, I'm sure, on that computer program. They were attuned, attentive, and working through it. And I do believe that the metrics that a mirror will provide is going to help our system and our teachers to tailor their instruction and to further track the student progress. Finally, I just want to thank the teachers for their time. I know that y'all have been thrown several curveballs that you've had to adapt to quickly, and I really appreciate your patience and their dedication to the training and using this new learning tool, and I'm really excited about seeing what progress that we make in the coming months and years.
I just want to, I'm really grateful to the team because it helped Lee County get out ahead. So a lot of systems will transition to Amira next year over the summer, and so I think we are in a good position to have a year under our belt as this has become the state selected screening tool, and so we feel good about that. It's better to have worked some of our kinks out and have the opportunity to get it right before there's any pressure from the state to use it as a sole screener. So we feel good about that. All right, anything else? Any questions? Okay. This evening, all board members have received an update on our research on senior tax exemptions across the state of Georgia. Although there are about roughly half of Georgia school districts that offer some level of exemption, you will notice that less than 15 out of 180 districts offer a full exemption. Many of the different districts that offer these exemptions have major sources of income through additional businesses, industry in their districts, and some of them also have that loss tax, which is kind of like a SPOS. It's an extra penny sales tax, but they're not restricted to capital projects on that. You will also notice that a great majority of these exemptions were passed before the major budget recession that was experienced by all school systems from 2008 to 2013. So however, that being said, we are continuing to look at ways to offer some level of exemption to our most financially impacted senior citizens. We will continue to monitor our local tax digest, state funding as it moves through the spring budget season, and any impact that we may see from federal funding to determine our best path forward. So just an update on that, and we'll keep updating. SPOS, speaking of SPOS, our SPOS collections for the month of January totaled $539,520.29. This is up almost $100,000 over last month. So we're trying to figure out why and if this pattern will continue. We are going to review the data and review possible sources of the increase and give us a better idea of whether that's a good projection for future months or if that's just an anomaly or an oddity. In maintenance, our January report, our baseball complex has just completed phase 2 with an addition of replacement of our outdated and somewhat wiggly bleachers. In addition to ADA accessibility for all, this phase included another platform that is ADA accessible on ground level that can be used by spectators or those desiring to film games. So if you have not had a chance to get out there and take a look at that field, you definitely need to do that, and we invite everyone to join us. They have a home opener this Friday, February 14th. How romantic, baseball. So come join us. The other thing I'd like to highlight tonight is a initiative that we have called For the Love of Learning. We can all agree that it is crucial that we inspect what we expect. A key part of the professional learning process is to see it come to life in classrooms. Through a month challenge called The Love of Learning, administrators, district office staff, instructional coaches, and lead teachers are observing instruction in the classrooms and giving very focused teacher feedback. We are looking to see the use of strategies introduced in this year's professional learning. And I will tell you that the lead team is a very competitive team. So there is a leaderboard every afternoon that goes up, and it is extremely competitive. I think we've had a few mistakes or we missed an observation here or there. The team that is missed is clear and quick to let us know that their observations have been missed and they are indeed in the lead. So I know I got my observations in. I'm still working to get my 10, but just know that it has been a fantastic effort to see those strategies being used. I think we were clear in communicating to teachers. This is about looking at seeing for us to get out in the classroom, but also I have said that district leaders and school leaders, as we're making decisions about the classroom, we've got to be in those classrooms. And so thank you to teachers who have humored us as we have been in classrooms significantly this month. So very excited about the Love of Learning. For the past few weeks, I've been hosting superintendent advisory meetings. I have met with business, family, faith, and teacher groups. We are collecting their feedback and suggestions, and we will use that information as we finalize planning for next school year. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Gary Kelly, Executive Director of Finance, to join us to present this month's budget update. Mr. Kelly.
Okay, I went into accounting so they didn't have to talk. I've talked more than the last year and a half than I have the last 30 years.
You sound great, though. You sound great.
Thank you. Our budget overview and update. The first slide, again, with no big surprise, this is the budget at the state level on the top and then coming down to the local. The next page is the monthly. Where we are is in February. We're continuing to monitor the governor's recommendations, and the big thing right now is there is a local reevaluation of the property digest for homes, and that's going to make a major impact on our budget. And when we know the effects of that, we can do the next page, which is our budget priorities. Our budget priorities, we will maintain and adopt the local class size. We will maintain the standards-based evidence learning and the mandatory increase from the state's health insurance. Now, what we would like to do is to improve our salaries, and that depends on our digest. So, and the last one is continue for safety. You're shifting on me a little bit, but to maintain safety, and we're getting some more state funds and safe schools money this year, and I'm sure you're going to talk about how we're going to spend it, right?
Sure.
All right, current year expenditures by type. This was our budget for this year. The top two is 82% of the budget, which is salaries and benefits. That's where we spend our money, is on personnel. Operations, that's our electricity or fuel for the buses and everything like that, 17%. What I'd like to do now is, Dr. Truitt said the state school superintendent's coming tomorrow to recognize our schools, and our schools perform in the top 25% in student achievement. The state used to have a 5-star ranking where they ranked the schools that give you the most bang for your buck, and we were always ranked in that top. But I don't know if that gets mentioned anymore. So right here, I'd like to show that last year's spending, Lee County was the 18th lowest spending district of all expenditures per student. That's less than 82%. In numbers, that's 33 out of 100. We were number 33 out of 180 as far as less spending.
No. So I guess what that means is when you're looking at spending per pupil, you will see sometimes districts that spend much higher than we do and get much lower results. We are getting better results on a tighter budget than than 140-ish, 146 other districts in the state of Georgia.
And our spending was $8,146 per pupil. The state average was $9,100. So we're spending like $1,000 less per student and getting more. We're in the bottom 7% of total overall. That was in instruction on the first one. So we're spending more in instruction than we are overall. We're 13th out of 180 in the total overall expense, but in instruction we're 18th. So we bump up in spending in instruction. Then on central administration, there's only 4 other school districts that spend less per student on our central office, and so that means 174 out of 180 schools spend more on central office costs than Lee County does. So
I just think that's important to reference that and to have a good idea of where we are in terms of expenditures compared to other districts. And when we say per pupil, that is it's a level set, so you can compare us to any district in the state because they divide it out based on the number of students they have.
And this information is all available on the Department of Education's website. They produce the financial statements and you'll notice in there, if you go download that, they have all the charter schools in there. I eliminated the charter schools in this analysis and came back to the 180 school districts because we can't compare ourselves to a charter school. Our next steps, like I said, to finalize the local tax digest, continue to monitor the General Assembly, and right now we're working on salary guides. The calendars are complete, and then we'll be presenting a budget once we have some information, better information. So that's all I have.
Any questions from the board? Thank you, Mr. Kelly. At this time, I would like to invite Mrs. Katie Pepper, Senior Director of Elementary Leadership and Learning, to join us to present our mid-year reading on grade level data.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent, Madam Chair, and members of the board. Thank you for allowing me to share the winter universal screener data from December. Today, I'd like to give you an overview of the school data as it relates to literacy as part of our strategic plan for Goal Area 1. Fastbridge and Amira provide us with formative data which is a pulse check or a mere glimpse of a student on that one day. This formative data gives us a snapshot of how the child is reading on grade level. The screener is conducted 3 times a year, providing teachers multiple opportunities to adjust their instruction based on the student's needs. The results of this help us determine our next steps and plan to move forward with student achievement and increase our percentage of students who are reading on grade level. A mirror was used for kindergarten through 3rd grade. This assessment is used to chart a student's estimated ability to read on grade level by the end of the year. The winter assessment increased in difficulty from the fall. 88% of our 3rd grade students were reading on grade level. We will not be satisfied until that number is closer to 100%. On the next slide, you can see that this is using FastBridge. FastBridge is used for 4th through 9th grade. This time last year, our 3rd grade students were reading at 76% on grade level. In our January weekly update, we provided additional information to you, and many schools listed a lack of student motivation during their impact checks, as we expect at this time of year. Schools are working to address motivation and the importance of these snapshots on information. In summary, we have some areas to celebrate and a few opportunities for additional growth. We celebrate kindergarten through 3rd grade students with a significant gain of at least 10% reading on grade level. A few areas of additional growth or gaps to address percent of 4th through 8th grade students who are reading below grade level and pushing our high school students who are reading on grade level to move towards reading above grade level. Thank you for the opportunity to share our progress and for your continued support.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
So we've looked at why they're regressing, and we've come up with a conclusion, or no?
Yes, we can look at time on tests, like they rush through in certain circumstances. And so what schools have looked at is, do we need to incentivize doing well on that mid-year screener? They do well at the beginning and they do really well at the end. And so what we want is that screener to be reflective of where they are, so we know where we need to work before they take their final assessment. And so it's really digging down into the timing of when we took the assessment, and then making sure that when I say incentivize, they have a reason to do well on that, rather than just, it doesn't count, so just, it doesn't count for grades, so just blow through it. Does that
So
make
at the end of
sense?
the year, if we compared all 3 of these, we should see, based on that assumption, that they should go right back up to it?
Yes.
They normally do.
They do. This is not atypical of mid-year in
Gotcha.
that upper grades. We'd like to fix that. That doesn't mean it is better if we know where they are because then you end up trying to offer assistance where a student maybe doesn't. But now I will say this, both middle schools and then 9th grade and high school have addressed that. So if they had a student who isn't making progress, they've added additional support classes in their morning support time, so that if a student does need help, they're not progressing the way they need to, they are getting additional support. So we have made those adjustments. Okay. Any other questions? Okay. At this time, I would like to invite Mr. Kevin Dowling, Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, Family and Student Services, to please join us and present our safety planning for school year 26.
Good evening one more time. Real quick, I'm not going to take too much time, but safety and discipline updates. Just real quick, Jen, if you go on. We're going to talk just for a few minutes about our 2 applications that we're looking into, and we talked a little bit about this several months ago, but Centegix is, well, it's the application that was being used at Appalachia High School when they had that tragic shooting back in August. It is a primary reason why as few lives were lost as they were. It saved a lot of lives that day, along with helping other students be safe and not get injured. So it has a crisis alert badge that you would wear, basically like a lanyard right here. And it has actually 2 types of alerts. It has a button with 2 types of alerts. One is just for a help needed, like there's a fight in the hallway, or there's a medical issue or something like that, or a room issue. The other one would be a lockdown type, and it's just basically 2 different types of pushes on the button. You can't confuse them both because one is much different than the other. But then you have a lockdown type of issue, like intruder, somebody with a weapon, something like that, campus-wide threat. So it's real simple, real easy to train on. And then in the background, there's basically a safety blueprint and intelligence response mapping system. Basically, you can keep track of where different parts are, where different holes might be. It also allows you to make adjustments. They actually come in and set things up so that the ability to touch on the button is easily caught in every area, and it also gives your location, because where you press it, it kind of says, okay, this is right here, and this is where you need to come, and it tells administrators or whomever else this is where you need to come to help. So I think it's a really good option, a really good system. The other thing we're looking at is School Dog. School Dog is basically a phone application. It's almost like a cell phone application / you can also get it on your computer as well. It's actually run, the CEO is our former Gale executive director, who is Buddy Costley. Buddy's a former superintendent, former longtime educator, and he now kind of runs this company, School Dog. Basically, it allows for monitoring of safety in buildings, kind of like we monitor for instruction. As you do a safety walk around your building, or as if you're walking your building and you see that this door is open, well, you can take a quick picture of it, you can upload it into the application, and just make a quick report. Door is ajar. Monday, 9 o'clock, door is ajar. Tuesday, 9 o'clock, door is ajar. Wednesday, 9 o'clock, why is this door still ajar? And so then, that kind of, when you look at the data, you can see, why is this still, you can go and find and resolve those types of issues in the building. So easy to enter data from observations while walking around, or by observing safety issues somewhere. Data is encrypted, it's kept in the app, and allows for easy tracking, sorting, and availability. So data may be entered and retrieved on cell phones or on computers. Like I said, you could just be out walking and see something and type it into the system. It's really, really simple to use. So, and really easy for administrators, for school leaders, for other folks to enter data to determine where you might have holes or where you may have some safety issues. So, and a really easy way to keep up with it. As far as that goes, our next steps would be basically to try to incorporate these safety measures into the budget. Like Gary said, I'll find a way to spend the money, he finds a way to get the money. So we work out very well together. And then to move toward, obviously, BOE approval for adoption of these applications, if they are the ones that we choose. But there are two that look very, very good, very promising.
I think we have invested in school safety. This would be kind of those last pieces. And it's just something that we're looking at and monitoring budget, but it is something that, if possible, we'll probably look to. Centegix has some hardware that has to be installed.
Yep.
So we try and make, once we have a good idea of budget, try and make that decision a little bit sooner so that we can start that process, because you would like to have that ready for the next school year. I think this is the benefit to this is that students can also be trained, so if something were to happen or that kind of thing, a student would be able to push that and lock down the building as well. Obviously, if a teacher is well, they would not do that, but for instance, if a teacher were to have a seizure or to fall, which we've had those situations happen before, a student would know and be able to use that alert button to let somebody know what classroom, what, that kind of thing, so there would be an emergency response. Any questions from the board?
What's the one we're using now?
So we're using School Guard right
School
now,
Guard.
and that is a cell-based system. It is extremely effective. I think the thing that we are potentially looking at is the opportunity to reduce human response. And so if you think about that, if a teacher is really teaching, they typically don't have this in their hand at all times. I know I was terrible to put it in my desk drawer or to lock it up. Sometimes if they use it for instruction, they may have it, but they might not. And so with Centegix, you have a badge that you wear around your neck, and so at all time and any time. So sometimes things happen in a hallway. You may have a student has a medical emergency. You may have left your phone in your room. You've gone to get, it's your planning period, you've gone to get a Coke out of the Coke machine or something, and so you would still, with Centegix, be able to make that alert and locate. The benefit also to Centegix is that law enforcement can utilize that, they'll map the building, and so law enforcement would be able to see that map on a grid, and heaven forbid, you always plan for the worst and hope for the best. And so this would allow our local law enforcement partners, both sheriff and Leesburg Police, to be able to locate a situation from the outside coming in if that were ever needed. Other questions?
Is there any idea what the state's talking about pushing down in total, or do we know?
So it's a one-time expenditure, so what we've got to look at is, we love it when it's put in as an FTE expenditure. In other words, it's going to be there and it will continue to be there. What is of, not concern, but you have to definitely look at when it's a one-time expenditure, which this year we're getting a one-time mid-year adjustment for safety. Is we want to make sure that whatever we invest in, that we can continue, and we can make sure we build that in the budget. And that's why we brought this to the conversation today. So that expenditure at the schools will not, it might cover 1 year, it would not cover long term, and we just can't predict what will be in that budget in the future. Any other questions? Okay, that concludes our reports for tonight.
At this time, it's necessary for the board to adjourn into executive session to consider personnel matters. The board will reconvene at the conclusion of the executive session. May I have a motion to discuss or deliberate upon the appointment, employment, compensation, hiring, disciplinary action or dismissal, or periodic evaluation or rating of a public officer or employee, or to interview applicants for the position of superintendent? Okay, have a second. Are there any further questions? We have a motion and a second to adjourn for executive session. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0, and we're currently adjourned to executive session. To reopen. Are there any questions or comments? I have a motion and a second to reopen. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously, and the regular business meeting is called back to order. In the first action item, the board is asked to approve the personnel consent agenda. Dr. Truitt, would you like to comment on the agenda?
Absolutely, Madam Chair and members of the board. This is the time of year that teachers, leaders, and others who have served 30 years and sometimes many more make the decision to retire. We want to thank them for their service and for their part in making Lee County Schools what it is today. You will also notice on the personnel agenda that there are coaches who are making transitions. As our athletic programs experience success, many times coaches have the opportunity to move up, and many times their spouses are in education as well, so you'll see those there as well. We also have a few teachers that know they are relocating. Some are getting married or have spouses who are transferred, aging and ailing parents, and in some cases a call to other fields like ministry. We wish them all the best, and I recommend that the personnel agenda be accepted as presented.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the current personnel consent agenda as presented?
Motion we approve.
Okay, may I have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions or comments from the board? I have a motion and a second to approve the current personnel consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Really sad to see your name on there, Doc.
Yeah.
Gonna miss you.
Me too.
In the second action item, the board is asked to approve the consent agenda. Dr. Truitt, do you have any comments?
Madam Chair, members of the board, you have been presented with a consent agenda containing fundraisers, out-of-state or overnight trips, website flyer, facility use, a 2025-2026 calendar adjustment, and a contract issuance for certified employees. Madam Chair and members of the board, I recommend that the consent agenda be approved as presented.
May I have a motion to approve the current consent agenda as presented? Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments from the board? Being none, I have a motion and a second to approve the current consent agenda as presented. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. And in the third.
That's the sign to go home.
And in the third and final action item, the board is asked to approve the resolution to formally out of Code Section 48-8-109.31, Section D, Section 1, Section A, formerly known as House Bill 581. This bill authorizes a statewide floating homestead exemption and opt-out provision for local taxing jurisdictions. Dr. Truitt, do you have any further comments regarding this?
Madam Chair and members of the board, I recommend that the resolution to exempt from the statewide homestead exemption. Just as a reminder, this doesn't change if individuals have a homestead exemption now, it will not impact or affect that in any way. This is really, we are exempting in order to stay as status quo. Exempt a statewide homestead exemption, formerly known as House Bill 581, now Georgia Code 48-8-109-31D1A, as allowable by law, be approved as presented.
May I have a motion to approve the resolution to opt out of Code Section 48-8-109.31D1A, formerly known as House Bill 581, as presented? Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any further questions or comments from the board? I have a motion and a second to approve the resolution is presented. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0. On behalf of the board, thank everyone for attending this evening's meeting. As a reminder, our next regularly scheduled business meeting will be on Monday, March 10th, 2025. If there's no further business, the regular meeting is adjourned.
The